mind, I'm gonna put all the exhibits in the front. Hold on. This isn't it? Oh, okay, I must have thought that was the file. The one before that.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Great.
Tuesday, March 11th, 2021, court AM Zoom hearing.
Morning, Judge.
Good morning.
Put my phone on Do Not Disturb.
All right. Are there going to be any other witnesses other than the parties?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I have one other witness down in my conference room. They're going to be uploading or getting onto Zoom shortly. Whenever they do, if you want to just put her in a waiting room, or we can tell her to log off and I can always get her to log back in.
And who is that?
That's Mr. Hawks's new wife.
Okay. And what's her name?
Melody King. Melody King.
Well, but before we get started, and so we're not on the record yet, let me just get from both sides what their take on how things have been going with Anya since we were here last. Mr. Anderson, what's your take?
Judge, I have talked to the father extensively, and even after the custody deal with Anya went from week on, week off, the other children have gone to an expanded, and it's our belief that all four children have been doing extremely well. Anya has been doing well in school. She actually got a good remark from her math teacher, who we believe she was struggling before and is doing well. We believe the week on, week off has been a positive change for Anya, and we just want that same positive change for all the children. So we believe it's doing better for them to be with their father more time than less.
Okay. And like I said, I know last time we kind of said with Anya, it was going to be kind of a trial run till we get here. So Ms. Borman, what's your basic take on how things have been going for Anya since we were here last?
I think the basic take, Your Honor, is that things have been going well for Anya. I've talked to Ms. Hawks about that. She believes that Anya is content with the week on, week off scenario. Insofar as the expanded possession for the other kids, she said that although the weeks don't always line up exactly, she said that Eddie comes home early sometimes. He doesn't want to stay the full expanded weekend, but generally speaking, that scenario is working. So I think that, ideally, if we're looking at what we would want the court to do, we would want the court to leave things as they are, what we had discussed back in February. We think week on, week off is not appropriate for the younger kids.
And Judge, may I just add something?
And we could start with kind of openings here in a minute. Again, when we were here last, in December. Yeah, we tried something with Anya, and again, the idea was that was going to be a kind of a trial run until we got here. So I just wanted to see how that goes with her. But we'll go ahead and get started. This is cause number 2020L7660 in the interest of Anya Hawks, Edward Hawks, Lena Hawks, and Elsie Hawks. And see, Mr. Anderson, I believe you represent petitioner.
Yes, sir.
So I can get you to announce and say who your client is and what your witnesses will be.
Judge, I am here on behalf of Ted Hawks, petitioner and movement in this matter. Ted Hawks is here to my right, and his wife will be a witness, Melody King.
Okay, and it looks like right now, I think Miss King is in the waiting room. I haven't admitted her yet. So are we gonna, do I need to admit her now, or can we just wait?
It's up to you, Judge. If you want to just let her wait and then swear her in when she comes in, that's fine with us.
Okay. All right, and then Ms. Borman, if you'll announce.
Respondent's
And
present, Judge, respondent's present and ready. Shanna Borman here for Elizabeth Hawks, respondent.
do you have any other witnesses?
Elizabeth will be my only witness, Judge.
All right, so then Mr. Anderson, what are you asking for today?
Judge, we're asking that all the kids be able to enjoy the fifth week on, week off visitation with their father, as Anya has been able to do for the last couple months. And in conjunction with that, Judge, we would ask that the child support be either adjusted to doing something of a zero child support amount, since Mr. Hawks will have 50-50 possession, or if that's not in the court's, or the court doesn't view that as in the children's best interest, that we figure out what Mr. Hawks would have to pay child support and figure out what Miss Hawks would have to pay child support and just do the difference to whoever would be receiving it at that time. And so that's what we're asking for, Judge. My client just wants equal time with his kids, and he's capable of doing it. And I believe the court will see that he's shown more than enough ability to take care of the kids on his weeks.
All right, and Ms. Borman, what are you asking for today?
Judge, we'd like to leave the situation with Anya as the same as it is right now, the week on, week off. We think that she wants that, and so we are amenable to that situation. We are also agreeable to leaving the other children on an expanded standard possession order, because that we think has been working for them. It does provide for fewer instances of exchanges, so we're agreeable with that. But I'm going to say, Judge, here in terms of my opening statement, I believe that this entire case is motivated by a child support modification request. So we have a situation here where this father files a request for equal time, spouting this 50-50 equal time, zero child support payable idea. When he brings this cause of action in June of 2020, he is over $20,000 in arrears in child support. And his ideal or main complaint about mom is that mom works too hard, she works too many hours, and dad has more time available, and mom won't let him see the kids. So bottom line here, Judge, I think the court must look to the motivations in this particular situation. I think the evidence is going to show the court that within 2 months of filing, this case was filed June 3rd of 2020. In September, he paid $10,000 in child support, part of it current, part of it arrearage. And then in October, he paid over $17,000 in child support to catch up. And so this case is motivated by money. It's not motivated by anything other than that. Now, for the younger children. Now, Anya says that she wants to do week on, week off. She likes that. She's doing well with that, and we're fine with that. And expanded, in my opinion, is always a better option than regular visitation, regular standard possession order visitation, because it reduces the number of exchanges that the parties have to see one another, particularly when there's conflict between them. And so we are agreeable to the changes that exist right now. But again, insofar as this case is concerned, this 50-50 zero child support payable, that's the reason this case is before the court today, not best interest of the children. So we request that the court's current, or that the current situation, one that we arrived at as a result of my having a client death in February, expanded standard for the 3 younger ones and week on, week off for the oldest, we believe that should be the order of the court.
All right, so Mr. Anderson, call your first witness.
Judge, I would call Mr. Ted Hawks, Edward Hawks.
Okay, and let me just get Ted Hawks and Elizabeth Hawks right now to raise your right hands. Do you and each of you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes, sir.
All right, so you may proceed.
Before we proceed, Ms. Lozano, can you hear my client okay?
He needs to speak up. I can hear you fine.
Yes, ma'am. In fact, what I will do is I will swap seats with him. I don't know if the microphone is on that side. Go ahead. Can you hear him better now? Speak up.
Hi, I'm Ted.
I can hear him.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure before we get going.
I can't hear Mr. Anderson sometimes. Maybe if you lean over like that, I can hear you when you're there, but I can't hear you when you're on the side.
Yes, ma'am. I'll speak up.
Thank you.
Okay. Can you state your name for the record, please?
My name is
I can't hear that.
Really? Where's your microphone?
Now I can. Real quick, it's like when you go off to the side, I couldn't hear you say your name. And then you said, really? I could hear that very clear.
Okay, Edward Grady Hawks. People call me Ted.
You are the father of 4 children, is that correct?
Yep.
And what are the names of those 4 children?
Anya, Edward, Lena, and Elsie.
Are they the children of this suit that we're currently involved in?
Yes.
Ms. Borman spoke about the modification that we have.
We can't hear that question.
Okay, I'm sorry. Ms. Borman was just mentioning that we filed a modification and she's saying that it's based on child support motivation alone. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that true?
No, that's ridiculous.
Okay. Were you behind at one point in time?
I was way behind.
And why was that? Can you tell the court why you were behind?
I have a pretty hefty child support obligation that's not really in accordance with my income, especially not with what my income has been since our divorce. And it's hard to make payments. They were $2,500 a month. After I got it modified, it used to be $3,500 a month. Now, it adds up quick, especially when you're still trying to be a dad and trying to live a life.
Okay, so you said that you had a $3,500 a month child support amount.
It was,
Is that correct or not correct?
well, it was 25, roughly. It was $24.97 and change in child support, and an extra $1,003.24 or something in spousal maintenance.
Okay. And when that took place, did you agree to those terms or was that ordered by a court?
I agreed willingly.
Okay. So you did you have an attorney at that time?
No, I didn't. When we got divorced, we had one attorney that kind of handled it all. The attorney, of course, represented Elizabeth, and I just kind of showed up with what I had.
So you just agreed that it would be in the best interest if you gave them that amount of money. You didn't know if it was in accordance with the guideline or not.
I believe that I was responsible for providing for my family, even if the way that family looks has been rearranged. I had supported our family financially for a decade prior, and Elizabeth told me that's how much money she needed to get by. And so I willingly agreed to pay her an arbitrary $3,500 a month in child and spouse support. And that was voluntary.
Okay. And then a lot of things happened after that order with your job, correct?
Well, I've been self-employed since 2008. And there are good years and bad years, like anybody has in business. We had a lot of good years. And I'm kind of a chronic optimist, and I was pretty surprised at how poorly I ran my business in the wake of the divorce.
So at some point in time, did it become feasible for you to pay the $3,500 a month?
No, it was just too much money.
Okay. So is that when you fell behind? Okay. And then,
I didn't hear the response.
Sorry, yes, that's when I started to fall behind, and I stayed behind for over a year. I'm still behind.
and last year, did business get a little better for you?
Yeah, it's been creeping up. I've been running a lean organization this entire time. We've got some goals, we're developing a product, and it takes effort and it takes money, and I don't have a lot of income personally.
Okay. When you did have bigger chunks, you put it toward Ms. Hawks. You gave it toward the back.
Objection, leading, Judge, leading.
Objection to be overruled. Just unfortunately for all these Zoom hearings, we have to give a little flexibility in the rules. So objections overruled.
Yeah, I've got a record right here of every payment I've made, child support, spousal support, et cetera. And yeah, I paid it off in big chunks. Sometimes we get a big contract with a client and I have some money, and I would put 5 figures toward my child support arrears. At one point last year, I took out a loan. I took out a personal loan to get caught up in child support. And Ms. Borman is presenting this like it's a bad thing to pay off my child support obligation.
All right. So it wasn't child support motivated to file this.
No, there's way easier ways to get my child support reduced.
I'm just asking you simple questions. What motivated this suit to be filed?
I miss my kids.
Okay.
I see them. Bedtime, for instance, is this kind of ritual and has been ever since our kids were little. And I tuck my kids in 6 days a month.
So you just wanted to be more
I can't hear.
father. Is that correct?
I couldn't hear the question.
I'm sorry.
I think you need to see
What, Judge, would you give me 2 seconds to grab a different computer and see if my laptop would be better than
Sure.
this? I apologize to the court. I have the volume turned all the way up. If the court will oblige, I will go grab a laptop and see if that'll help.
microphone. Donna, can you hear me fine right here?
Yes.
How about, what if I go like this? Can you hear me okay?
I don't know if it's when y'all turn sideways toward each other or what, but the volume's going in and out.
I think he's got a directional microphone. I think it just like, there's this hot zone right here where you can, I think if we just like buddy up real close, then you'll be able to hear us okay. How about now? Can you hear this?
It's a little muffled.
Okay, let's see what laptop.
Okay, Judge, if you will let the other computer that was in the waiting room in, I will take this one off.
You're muted.
Is that better?
That was great for you.
How about now? Can you hear me okay?
It was the first thing you said. It was sort of muffled, but then it got better.
Okay, so I'll just sit right here, real close.
Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry, I apologize. I don't know where we left off. So we were talking to the court about kind of what was motivating in this deal. And you said that it was you wanted to be more involved in the kids' lives. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah, you need to say words. Okay. Yeah, she doesn't take.
Yes, I want to be more involved in their lives. I want to see my kids more. I want to have more influence on developing their character. I want to be there for them. I want my kids to have memories of time they spent with dad.
And do you think you're capable of doing that?
Yeah, I'm a great dad.
Where do you currently live, sir?
Brookshire, inside of Katy School District. It's straight down I-10, exit Peterson Road or Jordan Ranch. It's 18 minutes from Anya's school.
Okay, and do you know where Elizabeth lives?
Yeah, they're in Brazos country.
Okay, so roughly y'all aren't that far apart, are y'all?
No,
And in fact, do you know how long it takes if they would ride the bus from Miss Hawks's house?
well, kid time I think is different than grown-up time, but the little girl said it takes them over an hour to get to school on the bus.
And do you drive them to school?
Yeah, with the bus doesn't come to our house, we
Okay.
drive them.
And you have the flexibility to drive them to school every day
Yeah, every day.
and pick them up?
Pick them up too.
So they could still attend Sealy ISD, their school would not change even if they lived with you week on, week off.
Yeah.
And you would get them to school on time?
Yep.
Have you been doing that?
Yep.
How have they done in school lately?
Oh, great at school. And they're always good at school, except for a short duration. When Ed was doing study from home, his grades slipped way down. But they all get straight A's. School's easy for all of them.
And do you help them with their schoolwork?
I do.
And you have a wife that's at home as well?
Yep.
Do y'all both work from home?
We do.
And is she capable of helping the kids out as well?
Yeah, she's a great mom.
And how many people live in your home?
9.
9.
Well, there's 5 full-time. And then when the Hawks kids come over a few days a month, there are 9. And we usually have little friends over too. So it's a full house.
How many rooms do y'all have?
4 bedrooms and then an office that's a library.
And so can you explain to this court where the kids reside?
Yeah, the A team, Anya and Adeline, they're close in age. Adeline's my stepdaughter. They have a room together. Elsie and Lena have a room together. And the 3 boys, Ed, James, and Logan, are in a room together with a triple-decker bunk bed that Ed and I built. I was one and we built one.
So the boys kind of hang out together and then the 2 older girls?
Yeah, there's really
And then-
neat dynamics. It's a blended family, and we've heard and read all kinds of horror stories about blending families, and there are a number of success stories. And ours is a very successful blended family. Ed and Logan are thick as thieves. Anya and Adeline are little peas in a pod, and the little girls just kind of look up to everybody and hang out with everybody.
So nobody's really on top of each other. Y'all have it figured out where everybody can have their own little space, but yet still be together?
Yeah, we got plenty of space. I mean, it's the 21st century. It's a comfortable home.
And do you think the kids are okay with that arrangement?
Yeah.
And do you think that it would be in the best interest of the 3 younger children to be with you in the same way that Anya is, week on, week off?
Yes.
And how can you tell the court, currently sometimes there's a 5th week in a month, correct?
Yeah.
And how do you propose that be handled, because y'all have some other children as well, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So we've got 2 different kid schedules to line up, and Melody's ex-husband Andrew, we've got a pretty good stable relationship with him. There's some flexibility there, but if we could keep our weeks where they come to our place 2nd and 4th, and then we would split the week starting on 5th Fridays, even odd, that would probably be ideal. It would keep all of our kids, all 7 of ours, on the same schedule and allow everybody the time that they're entitled to.
And do you think that the kids would flourish more than they already are if they were with you week on, week off?
Yes, without a doubt.
And you understand this is a temporary hearing, correct? And there's about 9 weeks left in the school.
Yeah.
And are you asking this court to allow you the opportunity on a temporary basis to see how these kids would react in school if they lived with you on a week on, week off basis?
Yes. Yeah.
Ed, let's talk about Ed, because Miss Mormon, she said that Ed likes to come home early. Can you tell the court a little bit about Ed and why he might have wanted to come home
Sure.
early every once in a while?
Yeah. I mean, we've got a great father-son relationship. We hang out all the time. We do a lot of stuff together. We build things. We go to the bouncy place every visit. We're close. And now Ed he's an introvert. He's
quite introverted. He's a solitary little guy, and he likes his peace and quiet. He likes his space. His grandma and grandpa's house out in Sealy is a good place for him. He's got 4 acres and cows and chickens and trees and things, and he's comfortable. And like many introverts, I think he can get a little fatigued when there's 9 or 11 people all piled on top of each other. He's got places to go. He's got a lot of outside places he goes. He's got a room. He's got a library. But he does like to go back and forth to where it's quiet and to where he gets one-on-one time with
Judge, I'm sorry, we froze up, I think, on our end. I missed about, I don't know, maybe 30 seconds. We froze up on this side.
so
Okay, just want to repeat what you're saying about Edward.
yeah, so I talked about how he's introverted and likes his space. Now he does on occasion ask if he can go back to grandma's house after our visit. You know, he kind of burns out on crowds. And of course he can. If that's where he's comfortable, then it's irrelevant that he's on my time and I'm entitled to have him where I want him. So he'll call grandma from time to time and have her come pick him up so he can get his peace and quiet. But what he's really after is one-on-one time with his parent. Because the kids are so seldom with us, it's like a special occasion to have all the Hawks kids over. And so they don't get enough one-on-one time with me. I don't have enough to go around all these kids. And so if he had the flexibility to come to me when the other kids were with mom, or if I just had enough time to allocate special time to him, he wouldn't burn out at all. He does great.
So is that why you're asking for the week on, week off, to where you can allocate special days to each kid to spend that one-on-one time?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's one of the many reasons, but that would be one benefit, is that I wouldn't have to like cram all my parental time into a couple short hours in a week.
You're not here. Are you here to tell the court that Elizabeth Hawks is a bad mom?
No, not at all.
In fact, tell the court what you think of her as a mom.
She loves her children as much as anybody. She loves her children fiercely, and she wants what's best for them. She fights for them.
You feel you're doing the same thing?
Yes, we just happen to be at loggerheads about about methodology.
So you both love your kids. There's no
doubt.
Which these kids are very lucky if they have 2 parents who love them as much as you guys do. But so you're just, what are you here to ask the court though?
Let me raise my children.
I mean, you're not asking for more time than Elizabeth, are you?
No. I don't think that would be fair either.
Okay. So you're just essentially asking the court to give you half the time and let you prove to this court in the next 9 weeks and part of the summer that you can maintain these kids' well-being half the time.
That's right. I'm half their parents. I'm half responsible for them. I don't see why I'm not entitled to half the time.
And if it doesn't work, you would understand that the court would not give you more than what you have today, right?
If I weren't capable of raising these kids, I wouldn't be asking to raise them.
Okay. But if the court does give you the opportunity and you don't prove that to them and the court takes it away, you would understand why they did that, right?
That's on me, yeah.
Okay. And about the child support, Ms. Borman said it was child support motivated. You heard that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is this child support motivated?
No.
Did you hear me tell the judge that if the judge doesn't think that a 0 child support is in the best interest, do the difference? Did you recall me hearing that?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. And do you think that's fair if the court says, hey, look, child support shouldn't be 0. We're going to have y'all do financials and see what it would be and pay the difference?
Yeah, if child support has to exist, then it needs to be paid. And if I'm the one who owes it, of course I'll pay it.
Okay. You just ultimately want time with your kids.
Yeah.
Were there times before this suit got filed that you were still doing extra for the kids, even when they were on Elizabeth Hawks' time?
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's very difficult to do stuff on her time, but the kids go to school, and I would watchdog several days a month. I made every field trip. I made all the sporting events. I coached Eddie's basketball team. You know, I stay involved. I stay close. I know many of their friends. We have friends over. Yeah, I'd get any time I could, visit them at lunch at school, take them Chick-fil-A. I'd do as much as I can.
Were there doctor's appointments where you'd have to stop everything to go take the kid to doctor's appointment?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of being a parent, right?
So explain that to the court.
Well, there's one in particular that was kind of aggravating. How much time? So Anya, I'm working one day. I'm sitting in a coffee shop over in Katy, and I'm typing away, and Anya texts me in the morning, says, "Can you take me to my doctor's appointment today?" I said, "Sure." It's at 3:00. She says, "Where is it?" And she's in school, and she's also 13 at the time. Maybe she's 14 already. This is in October. And so it takes her an hour and a half to respond. It's in Katy. And over this kind of text string, which I've got sitting here, I finally get out of her that she needs to be at this specific Memorial Hermann doctor's office at 3:00, and she wants me to take her. And time is ticking. And so I drop everything, zip out to Sealy, pull her out of school. It's my visitation day. I'm not sure why this appointment was scheduled on my visitation day when my days are scarce enough, but it's what it is. I get Anya out of school. By the way, I'm not able to get her out of school without a big workaround, because when Elizabeth registered Anya for school, she left me off the list. There's a workaround. I handled that. I got out to the elementary school, got the two little girls, and we were already late to the appointment. Eddie was at home doing study from home. So we go zipping off to the doctor's office, and we're there 20 minutes late. The paperwork hadn't been filled out. And by the way, I'm not sure what exactly is relevant from the story, but Elizabeth set this appointment, didn't tell me about it, had the child tell me about it the morning of. The child was short on detail, as a child can be expected to be. And once we got there, Anya couldn't go back anyway, because she can't go by herself, being a minor. I can't bring the little girls because COVID. And of course, I can't just send the little girls. I can't leave the little girls in the office because bad parenting, and I can't make them go wait in the car. So Anya just missed her doctor's appointment. And this is an endemic issue where she will fail to communicate, i.e. communicate important, timely things through children.
Mr. Hawks, so my question to you is, if y'all had a week on, week off schedule, you've told the court that you've been involved in their medical appointments and you're able to get them to doctor's appointments and whatnot. If the court was to grant you what you're asking, which is week on, week off, and the independent right to take them to the doctor and do all these things, would that give you the ability to make sure they got to the doctors on your weeks if they needed to go, and then she could set that up on her weeks?
Yeah, absolutely. Ideally, we just work together. We'd say, hey, the doctor has this time available. Can you do it? Yes. No. Pick another time. That's how co-parenting.
But I guess my question to you, Mr. Hawks, is if you had a week, if there was a doctor's need for the child to go to the doctor, you could plan that during your week because you have 5 days to work with, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So where it wouldn't inhibit on Miss Hawks's time. You wouldn't have to have Miss Hawks take it after you planned it and vice versa, correct?
Yeah, it would be very easy.
You could just inform her that, hey, we have a doctor's appointment. I'm going to be taking her, and it's very easy, correct?
Yeah.
I pass the witness.
Mr. Foreman?
Judge, I don't know if it's my connection. I'm hardwired here in my office, so it's like cutting in and out. So I'm actually through my Ethernet. So I don't know. Am I cutting out as you hear me? Because my listening, when I'm hearing it, it's the words are cutting in and out.
Okay, I can hear you fine.
I can hear fine.
I can hear you fine, Ms. Borman. They were cutting out.
Okay, so
Mr.
they were
Anderson
cutting
is-
out. Okay, so it wasn't me. All right. Okay. I thought it was my connection. I'm sorry.
I apologize for that. I did not know. I mean, that we were cutting out.
And now what I saw a few times is the video kind of froze, but the audio continued. So I was, I was hearing Mr. Anderson's question, and he was obviously, his mouth was not moving. And vice versa, I would hear Mr. Hawks answer, but the screen was frozen, but I could hear the questions and answers.
Judge, I think that I'll ask Mr. Hawks to slow down. He has a tendency to speak pretty fast, and that might help out with the Zoom trying to pick up what we're saying. So,
All right, so Ms. Borman, if you want to proceed.
May I proceed? Thank you. Mr. Hawks, you are self-employed, is that correct?
Yes.
And your wife works for your company, is that correct?
Sorry?
Your wife works for your company, is that correct?
Well, she works for a company that I'm a stakeholder in that I don't own.
So your testimony is that you have no ownership interest in the company for which your wife works?
That's right.
So what is the difference between a stakeholder and an owner in your mind?
I essentially contract. I have an agreement with the owner of the company to do certain work for certain compensation.
And is your wife a contractor for that company as you are?
No, she's W-2.
And is a condition of your contract with that company that they have your wife on their staff?
Absolutely not. She runs it really well. If she didn't, she wouldn't have the job.
Now,
I'm sorry. It was kind of low and I couldn't quite understand what he said.
No, it's absolutely not a condition of the job. It was fairly tenuous for me to even have her put in that position because of the clear conflict of interest. It chafes Jimmy Garrett to have nepotism going on, but she's very good at the job, and he brought her in.
Non-responsive.
Okay, objection sustained.
Mr. Hawks, your testimony before was that your child support obligation was roughly $2,500 at the time of the divorce. And at the time of the divorce, your spousal maintenance obligation was roughly $1,000. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Now, isn't it true, sir, that in June of 2017, about a year after the divorce, you filed to reduce the child support, filed to eliminate the spousal maintenance, and filed to modify the visitation?
I filed to see my kids more, like I am now.
Excuse me, it cut out.
I filed to see my kids more, like I'm filing now.
And similarly, at that point, sir, isn't it true, sir, that you filed to reduce your child support, seeking roughly what you're seeking right now, and also filed to modify your medical support and eliminate the spousal maintenance?
The medical support, not really, and modify the spousal maintenance, yes, that was included.
So, Judge, we'd ask the court to take judicial notice of the petition to modify parent-child relationship filed by Mr. Hawks in June of 2017.
All right, I'll take judicial notice of that.
And as a result of that order, sir, isn't it true that your spousal maintenance obligation of $1,000 per month was eliminated? And isn't it further true that by that agreed order, your child support obligation did not change?
The child support stayed the same, based on our mutual agreement.
Correct.
There was no assessment of my income at the time. It was just an agreement.
Objection, non-responsive.
Okay, and I was having a hard time hearing the response anyway, so why don't you re-ask the question and have Mr. Hawks answer it again?
Is it true, sir, that your child support obligation, despite a request to reduce it in June of 2017, by virtue of an agreed order, was not reduced?
That's right. We agreed to leave.
Objection, non-responsive.
Okay, objection sustained.
What does that mean?
And Mr. Hawks, were you remarried in 2017 at the time that you filed that petition to modify?
Yes.
And isn't it true, sir, that the only change between 2017 and now filing this modification is that additional time has passed?
Sorry?
What are the changes that have occurred since the prior order on July 13th
She froze up, Judge.
Am I frozen or is this?
You were frozen. You started your question on essentially what's the change from June 17, and then somewhere in there it froze up.
What are the changes in circumstances that exist from the date of the prior order where you sought a change in visitation, you sought a change in child support, you sought a change in the medical support? So that order was in June of 2018 or July in 2018. And then you filed this modification in June of 2020. What are the changes that occurred in that window?
Probably the most material change is that my wife and stepkids uprooted their lives to move across town to be closer to the Hawks kids, so we can have a more active role in raising them. That's the most material change on our side. There are a number of others.
So the change has to do with your wife?
The change has to do with our family. Sure. Yeah. I mean, I too relocated. I moved from Spring to Brookshire to be closer to my kids so I could have a more
How
active
far were
role.
you in Spring? How far were you away in Spring?
It took about 55 minutes to get from my house to the kids' school in Sealy.
And then now you say you are 18 minutes from the kids' school. Is that correct?
From Sealy Junior High, yeah.
I'm sorry?
Yes, from my house to Sealy Junior High is 18 minutes. Now, traffic permitting, it can vary, but we're pretty close.
So is it 18 minutes or 18 miles?
Minutes.
So you said traffic permitting. What does that mean?
Well, sometimes it's 25 minutes.
So when you live 55 minutes away, the children would have had to travel an hour if you took them to school in the morning. That's why you, at that point, wanted regular standard possession. Is that correct? Or you agreed to regular standard possession?
That's right. You know, I had, it's pretty hard to make that drive 4 or 5 times a week. And that was some concession, but the reason we settled where we did was because I ran out of money. I had a lawyer that bled me dry, and you know, we got to mediation. It cost me enough to buy 2 years of college for Anya, just to get to where we're arguing from room to room. That's also why I settled it. All the other
Objection, non-responsive.
Right, objection sustained.
Sir, what I'm asking you is that you would have had to travel an hour in the morning before to take the children to school, and now you have to travel 20 minutes. Is that correct?
Those things are true. So I'm still not sure what you're asking me.
Okay, so those things are true. You're closer.
You're cutting out. You're cutting out.
So
We're
you're
much closer.
Okay, what other changes?
Well, from that point, the kids, Elizabeth switched their schools. They were in Katy at the time I filed the original, and then she moved them out to Sealy schools. So they got even farther from me.
Further from you where?
They were going to school at Winborn Elementary in Katy when I filed.
When you
And-
filed what?
The 2017.
When the 2018 order was put in place, how far were you from the school?
Probably 40 minutes from my door to Winborn.
So that was when the 2018 order was put in place. Is that correct?
That's right.
And right now, how far are you from your house to the elementary school?
Still 20 minutes, 18 minutes, give or take.
So it's 18 minutes to all the schools.
Well, if you want to split hairs, Selman is about a minute farther than Katy Junior High. And next year, Anya will be in the high school, and that'll be another minute and a half past Selman.
So at the 2018 order, you were roughly 40 minutes away, and now you're roughly 20 minutes away. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, what other changes?
The kid's mom got married to a guy that Anya hated and got along with terribly. And I'm not sure what the status of that marriage is, but I haven't heard much from Joe. So that's another fairly material change.
So that has to do with Anya not liking that man, correct?
Part of it.
And now it's my understanding that Anya has even told the judge that that man is not around anymore. Is that correct? Is that your understanding?
Yeah. Well, I don't know
And-
what's going on there.
And isn't it true, sir, that you and that man have had communications where you have agreed that that man can see the two younger children while they're with you?
I don't have
Okay, so you are agreeable that that man who Elizabeth married, who Anya hated, can see two of your children. So he's obviously not that dangerous, I suppose. Is that correct? Well, it's obviously
Yeah,
something.
wait, we didn't hear the response.
I never said he was dangerous.
Judge, if you don't mind, Mr. Hawks, when you're speaking, speak loudly and speak slowly. That way it'll help the microphone maybe pick it up.
Yeah, I never said Joe Granito was dangerous at all.
So the man that Anya hates is not dangerous, but because Anya hates him, you believe that that is a material and substantial change that justifies the change for Anya. The two younger children don't hate him, correct? Because you've agreed that he can see them while they're with you. Is that correct?
That whole thing was choppy. Can you say that again?
You've agreed that the two younger children can see him
You're
while
still-
he's with you. You've agreed that the two younger children can see him when he's with you.
I'm open to that. He does thoughtful
Okay.
things for them. Like he brought him Valentine's. I thought that was really cool.
Okay, what other changes, sir?
Yeah, I mean, those are pretty big changes, Ms. Mormon. I could probably go dig through my notes.
I'm sorry, I can't hear what he's saying.
I can't think of. Yeah, that probably sums it up.
So you're asking for the same thing you asked for before. The changes now are that Elizabeth's marriage to this man that you agree is a pretty decent guy because you're going to let him see the two children while they're with you because that marriage failed and because now you live 20 minutes closer to the children's school. Is that correct?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay.
Well, also because I'm their
Objection
dad.
non-responsive.
Kids.
Okay, objection sustained.
Now, Mr. Hawks, isn't it true that you paid roughly $10,500 in September 2020 to catch up on your back child support?
Didn't hear the answer.
That sounds right. I've got it noted down exactly when that payment was made.
So I'm going to show you, Judge, can I share my screen?
Yes.
I'm going to show you, Mr. Hawks, what I've marked as R5, which is Respondents Exhibit 5. This purports to be a state disbursement unit payment record. Does this look familiar to you at all?
The numbers, no, I don't know about the document, but the schedule looks right.
So I'm gonna represent to you, sir, that this is the state disbursement unit of the Attorney General's office pay record, a copy that I obtained from that source in January prior to the February hearing, and we submitted to the court as an exhibit.
Yeah.
So would you agree with me, sir, that if this is the one that the child support office produced when I did an inquiry there, when I went to that website and entered the data to access your account, this account would reflect all of the payments that you've made?
That sounds right to me.
I'm going to offer R5.
No objection, Judge.
Okay.
Judge, I believe
Respondents 5 is admitted.
Judge, I believe that exhibit has been e-filed with the court. Karina, can you tell me, do you have that?
I don't have the file.
Do you, how, can you get it? I mean, I guess kind of the
Well-
question is, what do I have to do to make sure it's in the record?
I mean, I have a stack of exhibits here.
Okay, so it's among those, I think, in the respondents exhibits. I'm only offering R5 at this point, Judge.
So respondents 5 is submitted.
Thank you.
Judge,
So-
can I take a break real quick?
Okay,
I need to take,
let's take about a 5-minute break.
To Judge, we have once again moved spots, so maybe I'll have better internet at this point in my office.
All right, so we'll continue. One thing before we get started, I just want to let everybody know we had 3 hours for this hearing. I know at 1 o'clock we have another case in which a respondent is actually in prison, and there's a very narrow window that they can participate. And then at 1:30 have a CPS case involving some sexual abuse, and there's some witnesses that also have limited times they can be here. So,
So can I interject? I'm in trial at 2 o'clock here on Zoom in another case in a CPS matter. I understood we were set for 3 hours today. So I told them I could do it this afternoon for that other one.
Okay. So I guess what I'm saying is, it's
Hurry up.
We've been going for about 50 minutes, and a lot of it is Zoom problems where we have to stop and repeat things. But right about pretty close to noon, we're going to have to break, whether we finish today or if we don't, we may have to come back. I just sort of let everybody know. But so Ms. Foreman, if you want to continue.
Were you able to get a copy that actual exhibit, Judge? The physical one?
No, I haven't found it, but I didn't specifically look for it, but while you're talking, I'll look and see if I can find it.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen again, just for the purposes of kind of talking about this. So from January all the way through until September, isn't it true that the only month you actually paid at least the obligation you owed was February of 2020? Is that correct?
That's right.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
His answer was yes, that's right.
Thank you. Yeah, he's kind of a low talker. Can you ask him to speak up a little bit?
That's
So then,
right.
so you actually paid the amount you owed and a little more in February, and then it wasn't until September that you paid the amount that was due, and then you paid over $10,000, and then the following month you paid over $17,000. So ever since then, though, you've been paying exactly what is owed. So all those months before, you did not pay because you were financially struggling. Is that correct?
That's right.
And those months that you were financially struggling, you just assumed, did you not, sir, that Elizabeth would pick up and carry the burden for the kids. You did not pay what you agreed to pay in those months, did you, sir?
No, I didn't have the money.
You did not pay what you agreed to pay, sir. Is that correct?
Objection asked and answered, Judge. She's already said yes.
Objection sustained.
Isn't it true, Mr. Hawks, that the children, I think your testimony was that they get all A's, they're doing very well in school. Is that right?
That's right.
And isn't it true that they have been doing very well in school?
That they had been?
Have been?
Yeah.
That they have been since 2017, since 2016, correct?
Yeah, they've always done well in school.
Always done well in school. And isn't it true that they have been thriving as students, as children? I mean, they're developing normally. They don't have any emotional issues. Things are going well. Is that correct?
Yeah, they have a good life.
They have a great life. Isn't that right?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, pass the witness.
Mr. Anderson.
Judge, if Ms. Mormon could put that exhibit back up on the shared screen, I just have a few questions about it. Thank you, Ms. Mormon. Thank you so much, Ms. Mormon. Can everybody hear me okay?
I can.
And Mr. Hawks, Ms. Mormon said, and you agreed that you did not pay the amount that you had agreed to pay for the months of January through November, except there was a couple months where you paid what you agreed plus more, correct?
That's right.
But in all the months leading up to September, right, you paid at least $1,500, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not like you didn't pay anything, did you?
No,
So she was still getting at minimum $1,500, correct?
Yeah.
A month.
that's right.
Okay. So, well, it wasn't the exact amount you were supposed to pay. It's not like you weren't giving anything, correct?
Oh, I was giving.
Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing that screen. Now, Ms. Borman asked you that, and you acknowledge that the kids get good grades, correct? And that they have a good life, correct?
They do.
And that's why you're asking this court to give you more time so that they can have an even better life. Is that correct? Okay. This isn't a case where kids are failing left and right. They're living in filth, is it?
No.
It's just a simple case of, hey, the kids are doing well, and they've been doing well with you as well, correct?
That's right.
And you just want to get a little more time, correct?
That's right.
And in fact, you moved from Spring to Brookshire, correct?
Yes.
And from Sealy to Spring, how far is that roughly?
55 minutes.
Okay. And from Sealy to Brookshire is how far?
I'm not hearing the answers. Is it just me? I'm not hearing the answers. I'm sorry.
Can everybody else hear me okay?
You were kind of going in and out.
You're gonna have to almost scream at the computer because y'all can hear me though, right?
Yes.
Okay, it is 18 minutes from Brookshire to Sealy.
Okay. And when you moved from Spring to Brookshire, the kids were actually living in Katy, correct? Or going to school in Katy?
No,
Okay, I thought that was your testimony.
in 2018, they were going to school in Katy. And then that year they were relocated out to Sealy. But when we moved from Spring to Brookshire, they had been going to school in Sealy for a little while.
Okay, my apologies. Okay, so in 2017, when you filed the modification that you had filed, they were going to Katy School.
That's right.
Okay. And then they moved once again and started going to Sealy School, correct?
Yes.
All right. But moving, your physical moving from Spring to Brookshire wasn't just as easy as you finding another house, was it?
No,
Okay.
It's a lot of work to move.
Because not only did you have things to worry about, your new wife did, correct?
That's right. And my stepkids.
In fact, she has kids from a previous marriage, correct?
Yes.
And so y'all had to coordinate all of that as well, correct?
Yes.
Question leading. All these questions, Judge, are leading questions. And I understand that Zoom requires some give here, but he's testifying for Mr. Hawks.
Judge, I'm just clarifying some of the testimony that's already been in place, Judge. I'm just trying to speed up the clarification process.
Objections overruled.
But those aren't all the moving wasn't all the reasons either, was it? For the modification?
Because of moving?
Yes. I mean, that was one of the changes that you claimed earlier, correct?
Right.
Okay. And I heard you say something about there was a relationship with Joe.
Mhm.
Okay. Was it a toxic relationship between Elizabeth and Joe that you know?
Kids have
Can't
their opinion.
I can't hear the answer.
You have to speak louder.
I don't. Yes, it sounds like it was a toxic relationship between Elizabeth and Joe.
Objection, I think that answer is based on hearsay, Judge.
It is.
Objection sustained.
You also work from home
Yes.
in 2017. Did you work?
I can't even hear the question now.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
I want that one.
You work from home now currently?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Did you work from home in 2017?
Yes.
Okay. But when you worked from home in 2017, it was a lot further drive is how you testify, correct?
From home to see the kids?
Yes.
Yeah, much further.
Okay. So there's more than just you want this to happen. There was a lot of changes that took place in the kids' lives, correct?
Yes.
Do you believe that the kids want this?
Yes.
And is that another reason why you're asking this court to give you 50-50?
Yes. If the kids were ambivalent, I wouldn't do this.
And just to recap, Anya is doing well with the week on, week off.
Yep.
And the kids currently have a expanded where they're with you like almost 4 nights, correct?
4 nights.
Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday
Yes,
night.
on my weekends. Yes. That's
Okay.
right.
So it's not that far of a jump to do a week on, week off with them as well to see if it's going to work, correct?
Yeah, it's not much different.
And you think it'd be in their best interest.
Absolutely.
Best witness.
Mr. Foreman?
No questions.
And for my clarification, has any either agreement made or is an order in place that talks about what's going to happen in the summertime? Or
I don't believe there is an agreement, Judge. We're here to ask that the summer just continue with the week on, week off, and maybe like a 2-week uninterrupted where she has one of his weeks and he has one of her weeks so they could do a vacation, Judge. That's what we would ask for the summer.
okay.
Where neither one has a 30-day.
And then Mr. Hawks, so what is your monthly gross income?
It varies. My tax returns have been submitted. 90,000. Now gross is everything. Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe $7,000.
You said 90?
Yeah. This year.
Judge, he said that his grossly yearly income is roughly 90,000, which would make a monthly gross of 7,500, Judge.
All right. Anybody have any other questions for Mr. Hawks?
I do not, Judge.
Okay, Mr. Anderson or Ms. Mormon, do you have anything else for Mr. Hawks?
No, sir.
All right, Mr. Anderson, you can call your next.
Judge, I'm going to have to get Melody King on upstairs on my computer, so that'll take me just 2 seconds.
Okay.
Speak up.
Okay, Judge, I have her ready to go.
All right, so Ms. King, if I can get you to raise your right hand.
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
All right, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Can you state your name for the record, please?
My name is Melody King Hawks.
Okay. And you are the wife of Ted Hawks, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you are familiar with the Hawks children, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any children of your own?
Yes, I have 3.
You have 3? Okay. And how many live with you?
All 3 of them.
All 3? Okay. And do you have a ex that you have to deal with custody of these kids?
Yes.
Okay. And did y'all have, when y'all moved to Brookshire, did you have to go through anything to get that accomplished?
No.
No. Y'all just agreed to it?
Yes. I don't have any restrictions in the state of Texas.
Okay. Let me ask you, how has Anya been doing since she came to live with y'all week on, week off?
Oh, she's doing good. She seems happy. I asked her if the schedule was working well for her, and she said yes.
Objection hearsay.
Oh, sorry.
Objection sustained.
You just can't say what somebody else is told you.
Okay. It's going well.
Okay. And y'all have had the younger ones for what's been an expanded for about a month or so now. Is that correct?
Yes.
And how has that been going?
It's been going really well. We really enjoy having them over. So we get to see them more and spend more time with them.
Okay. And do you think that they would also have the same benefit as Anya if they got to be with y'all week on, week off?
Oh, absolutely.
And do you think that it would be in their best interest?
Yes.
And do you think that they would flourish the way Anya has?
Yes.
Do you think it would harm them in any way to be with y'all week on, week off?
No, I don't think so.
Do you think, in your opinion, is that what they would like to see, is to share the same thing Anya does?
Yeah.
Objection if that answer is based on hearsay or speculation.
Objection's overruled.
You can answer, ma'am.
Oh, yes.
I pass the witness.
All right, Ms.
No
Borman.
questions.
Okay, and Ms. King Hawks, what's the possession schedule with your 3 kids?
He has the 1st, 3rd, and 5th, and just the standard, and he does Thursday nights, but he actually doesn't usually pick them up on Thursday nights because of his work schedule. And so I keep that flexible for him. If he can't do Thursday, he might do a Monday or Tuesday, depending on his work schedule.
Okay. All right, any other questions for Miss Melody King Hawks?
I have none, Judge.
All right,
No, sir.
thank you. Okay, thank you, Miss
That's it.
Melody King.
All right.
And Mr.
Now-
Anderson, anybody else?
No, Judge. No other questions for anybody else.
All right, then Ms. Borman.
We call Elizabeth Hawks.
You may proceed.
So slide up here.
Yes, ma'am.
Elizabeth, just generally, I don't want to belabor these issues here. I want to kind of cut to the chase. How do you believe Anya is liking the arrangement that's week on, week off?
I think she's doing well with it.
And do you believe that that should be the continued arrangement for Anya?
I think she will do well with it.
Now, with respect to the 3 littler children, we've been doing expanded standard possession order since, I believe, February 5th-ish of last month, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And my understanding of the expanded standard possession order for the one that you guys use is not the typical expanded. It's a little bit varied in that it's 2nd, 4th, and 5th weekends, Thursday to Monday instead of first, third, and fifth weekends, Thursday to Monday. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So since the beginning of the expanded standard possession order schedule, there have been essentially 2 weekends that have transpired since then. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
The weekend beginning February 11th, the Thursday, and then the weekend beginning February 25th, that Thursday. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
On how many of those 2 weekends has Eddie called asking to come home early?
He's called both times to come home early. I believe one of the times he wasn't, Ted and Melody didn't know that he called. And so he didn't actually come home early because that should have been cleared with them first. So
now, do you believe that the expanded standard possession order, in as much as we've only had 2 functional weekends of that arrangement, do you believe that that arrangement merits further testing, essentially? That is to say, we should try that for longer to confirm that it works.
yes, ma'am.
Do you believe that 2 weekends is sufficiently long to determine whether that visitation modification is workable?
No, I don't.
Do you want the court to order that that visitation schedule being expanded for the 3 littler children continues?
Yes, please.
Now, with respect to the incident that Mr. Hawks testified about, where Anya called Mr. Hawks, he alleges, the day of the appointment. Do you recall that incident?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell the court, were you off work that day to take Anya to the doctor?
Yes.
What was the reason for the appointment?
She had been having some jaw pain. And so normally on the days when the kids go to Ted's house, I work that day because I don't see them after school. But that particular day I had taken work off so I could take her at 3 o'clock.
Was that to a TMJ-ish doctor?
Yes.
And you took off work that day to take her?
Yes, ma'am.
Why is it then that she called Mr. Hawks to have him take her?
Because she asked me, can Dad take me to my appointment today? And even though I had taken the day off, I said, yeah, if you want Dad to take you to your appointment, that's fine with me. So from that point forth, it seemed she reached out to Ted. I gave her permission to go ahead and reach out to him and see if he could take her. And I said, if he can't, I'm here. We'll just stick with our regular plan. And so she took it from there.
When was this ballpark time frame?
Probably around October, when she really started feeling a lot of jaw pain.
And was that also around the time where she was becoming vocal or more vocal about wanting to spend more time with Dad?
Yes.
Was your, I guess, willingness and, saying, if you want that, that's fine. Was that motivated? What was that motivated by?
I wanted her to know it was okay for her to have her dad take her to the appointment if that's what she wanted to do.
When COVID began, so let's kind of go back in time. When COVID began, did you and Mr. Hawks work together for the children when they were doing at-home school?
Yes, ma'am. So
can you describe that for the judge, please?
Yes. So Judge, I am a an ICU nurse at Memorial Hermann. And when COVID began, I was at the hospital a lot more than my normal 3 shifts a week, just because it was a crisis. And then the kids were home from school. And so Ted reached out to me and said, you know, the kids are welcome to come over here while you work. And we had a really good rapport where maybe twice a week, the kids would go to Ted's house and spend the day and do their homeschooling and some other projects or whatever that they would do with Ted. They do a lot of carpentry and things in the garage. And they were happy with that. And I thought it was going really well. And then I would be with them on the days that I didn't work. And then, you know, my mom would take over for one of those days that I was working. So I felt like we struck a good balance then, and things were, I felt like things were getting better between us.
And when was that roughly? Was that right when COVID began? My recollection was that COVID began in March-ish of 2020.
Yes, sir. So the kids, COVID actually began in February, but the kids weren't off from school until spring break. They never went back after spring break. So they were with me during spring break, and then it was kind of a last minute decision the school district made to not send them back to school. So that agreement lasted until the time that school was out. And I believed that things were good until I was served papers in June.
So the workable relationship that you had with Mr. Hawks for the children was from March-ish until roughly the end of May.
Yes, ma'am.
And then immediately at the beginning of June, once school was out and Mr. Hawks and that school day schooling, I guess homeschooling, that opportunity was finished, Mr. Hawks filed this litigation.
Yes, ma'am.
Did he talk to you at all prior to filing this litigation to say, hey, I'd like to work with you on this. We're working so well together now. I'd like to work with you.
No, he had spoken with me before COVID hit, and, you know, I knew he wanted extra time. I knew Anya wanted extra time. There were lots of times when Anya had a game on his day, and so he wasn't able to spend time with Anya, where I would say, hey, why don't you take Anya out to dinner after her game, and you can bring her home late tonight. And then when everything happened with COVID, I thought this was kind of a perfect opportunity to see how it would go to have the kids over there more often during the day. And I felt like things were going well between us. So he didn't tell me before he filed that he was filing anything legal. I didn't know.
So when this litigation was filed, did you and Mr. Hawks do for the summertime what you and he had planned on doing for the summertime anyway?
Yes, ma'am. So
explain that to the court. What is that?
Sure. So we usually split up each month. So I have the beginning of each month from June 1st to June 15th or whatever. And then he has the rest of the month, and then I get him back on July 1st. And then he has them the second half of the month of July. And
so is that what's in the order? the first 2 weeks of June go to you, and then the remainder of the month go to him. The first 2 weeks of July go to you, and the remainder of the month go to him.
Yes, ma'am. That's what's in the order.
And then in August, when school starts, what are the provisions for August?
So in August, we went back to our normal schedule of, first, third, and fifth. Well, I would just get the first and third, and he would get the second, fourth, and fifth.
So you would get the first and third, he would get the second, fourth, and fifth. So back to basically the opposite standard possession order. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
So we'd ask the court to take judicial notice of the July 13th, 2018 order. It is an agreed order in suit to modify parent-child relationship.
Right. I'll take judicial notice of the July 13th order.
And did that summertime visitation schedule work for the children and work for you and Mr. Hawks?
I feel like it works. I feel like the kids aren't gone. Seems like they're not gone for so long that they start to get homesick, and we're able to schedule vacations and do fun things with them intermittently. So,
and is that what, do you want the court to continue that order for this summer?
Yes, please.
Okay. So this expanded standard possession order tryout would be for the remainder of the school year, and then you would revert to this two week scenario for the summer. Is that right?
Yes, please. That's what I would like.
Okay. And do you think that that visitation, as you've proposed to the court, is one that benefits the children?
Yes.
And why do you strike that? Is it important to you that the children have a I guess a consistent routine and a consistent place?
Yes, ma'am.
Why is that?
Well, ever since our children were born, I have been their constant. I have, one of my parenting strengths is that I'm very consistent. We have rules and routines in our home that build character and stability and help our children feel safe, and they know what to expect. And many of those routines are just happy family game night and playing kickball outside and, Sunday dinners. So I believe that I am my children's home base. I believe I have always been that for them. I believe that since they are thriving, since there is no evidence that my children are being harmed at all, and on the contrary, that they are doing really, really well where they are, I don't believe a change of custody is necessary for the good of my children. I have never denied them going over and forming a relationship with their dad and their stepmom and their step siblings. I have always been very straight with my children that we will follow the custody schedule and that they will have time to form those relationships, which I believe are very valuable.
When this 2018 order was entered, you were a nurse at that point, is that correct?
I was actually in nursing school.
Still, no, not the divorce, the 2018 order.
I was in nursing school.
Okay, so you were still in nursing school at 2018?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the elimination of the spousal maintenance was that elimination of the spousal maintenance a result of you moving in with your parents?
It was so Okay, so let me back up. So when Ted,
I'm just going to object to the relevance of why the spousal maintenance got eliminated. It's a prior order. It really doesn't.
Judge, this goes to why it is that she relocated, since Mr. Hawks has somehow told the court that she relocated multiple times. The
Objection's overruled.
So let me just ask this question a different way. Okay. I understand it's overruled. She can answer, but let me just ask this a different way. When you and he divorced, were you residing in your marital residence?
yes,
Did you move from your marital residence to your parents' home?
yes,
Were there any moves between the move from the marital residence to your parents' home?
no, that was our only move.
And between the time, or in that time when you moved, were you in nursing school?
Yes,
And did you begin nursing school after the divorce?
yes, because when everything fell apart, I had been a homeschooling mom, so I didn't have any income at all, and I had to kind of start from scratch.
So you went to school, became a nurse, and during that homeschooling, during that nursing school program, you began to reside with your parents.
Yes, ma'am.
And it was residing with your parents that allowed you to agree to eliminate Mr. Hawks' spousal maintenance obligation in 2018.
Yes. So I started working. Ted modified, sued, I'm not sure what the correct terminology is, when I was halfway through my nursing program. So I was still months away from graduating. And then as we were negotiating it and decided on, well, hopefully someday I'll graduate, Ted said, well, she doesn't need spousal support now because in February of 2018, she's going to have a job. And I had already gotten a job offer, so that was accurate, but I actually hadn't even graduated from my program yet, and was still kind of just struggling to build some financial stability for myself and my children.
So was the move from Katy to your parents' house motivated? What was that motivation?
So because I felt like I needed to make an income right away, I was accepted to an accelerated nursing school program that was super hardcore. I did my BSN in 1 year, and I took 20 credits for 3 semesters to finish it. And I knew that I would need a lot of support with my children for that year. And so I put my house up for rent and moved in with my parents, with grandma and grandpa. And I knew they could get my children where they needed to go until I came home from school.
So since the date of that 2018 order, Mr. Hawks has articulated the change that he went from 40 minutes away from the children's school to now 20 minutes away from the children's school. And he, I think the other one that he indicated was what's the other one that he indicated?
The marriage with Joe.
That you married Joe.
That I married
Okay,
Joe.
and Anya didn't like Joe.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you and Joe separated right now and
Yes.
kind of going through marriage counseling?
No, we are separated. We are, Joe has been told numerous times that there is a security boundary right now around my children, and that he is not allowed to try to get around that. I have been very strict with this boundary.
Why did you impose this boundary between Joe and the kids? What was the motivation for that boundary?
Yes, thank you. I wanted to protect my daughter, Anya. And also I wanted to make sure that my home was as stable and as safe as possible, so that if there were any allegations that I had a toxic home environment or anything, that wouldn't be an issue. My home is very safe and very stable. And Joe and I are going to get divorced. So he will no longer be a part of my family or my children's life.
Do you believe that the children's school performance would suffer if they went to a week on, week off possession schedule?
I don't know. I don't know.
And do you believe that trying the expanded standard possession to confirm that after 2 weeks or only 2 weekends of expanded standard, that doesn't negatively affect the children? Do you believe that taking that course of action, that more conservative course of action, is the better option here for the little ones?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
And again, how little are the little ones?
7 and 10 and 11.
And are you employed right now?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're working, you said, as a COVID ICU nurse, is that right?
That's correct.
How many days do you work every week?
Yes, so I work 3 shifts a week, which they're 12-hour shifts. That's 36 hours a week. I schedule most of the shifts that I work on weekends that I don't have the kids, on days that Ted has custody of them. I work as little as possible when I do have the children. And unless there is some reason that the hospital is requiring us to work mandatory overtime because of COVID, I don't sign up for overtime shifts.
And Elizabeth, did we submit respondents 1, which I'm pulling up right now, Judge? Let me see if I can pull that up here real quickly, which purports to be a copy of your work schedule from your app. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, Judge, let me pull that up real quick. I believe that this was also e-filed. Do you have that, Mr. Anderson?
I'm looking at a calendar, so if
Right, it's a calendar. It's like a screenshot of the calendar, right? Do you have that there, Judge, in front of you?
I do not have it in front of me.
Okay. And I'm not seeing the, oh, right there. Let me see here. Here we are. R1. May I screen share again?
Yes.
So Elizabeth, I'm showing you what was marked and submitted as R1. Is this a true and correct copy of the calendars that reflect your work days for the months of September, October, November, and December of 2020?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay. We would offer R1.
Any objection?
No objection, Judge.
Okay, respondents 1 is admitted.
And so Elizabeth, with respect to this calendar, does this calendar reflect the days that you try to work your visitations or your visitation schedule around your work days. That is to say, your work days are the days that you don't have the children, that the children are with Mr. Hawks.
Yes, as much as possible, I do that.
And would actually, if the children went to a week on, week off possession schedule, would that actually result in less time with you? Because during the weeks that the children are with you, you would still have to work for 3 of those days.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay. So while the week on, week off possession schedule may result in equal time, it would actually result in disproportionate time. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, the children's school performance thus far has been, they've been getting all A's. Is that right?
That's correct.
And have there been any emotional struggles with the children? Have they had any acting out or self-harm or, tantrums or difficulty sleeping or anything like that?
No, the kids have had, my kids are pretty well adjusted. Their teachers all tell me how wonderful they are.
Yeah,
in the
hearsay.
classroom.
You can't say what somebody else said.
Okay.
Objection sustained.
And are they all, when they get home, tell the court how they get home.
Okay. So on the days that I work, I do the driving to take my daughter, Anya. She has to be at school at 6:30 in the morning, and I drive her there, and the kids have to be at school at 7:45. So I drive them there. And then I tell the kids that you have to take the bus one way. So they take the bus, they choose to take the bus home from school. And that's only about 3 days a week that they do that. And all the other days they're getting picked up by me or Ted or Melody. Anya has to always be picked up later on in the evening, like around 6, because she's got track. So over one day, I'm driving 3 times to and from schools, and only one of those trips is the bus actually involved.
So the idea that the children are on the bus for an hour, is that accurate?
I think it probably takes an hour.
And how many days a week then?
About 3 days a week.
Okay, so they take the bus 3 days a week.
Yes, so 3 hours a week they're on the bus.
Okay. And are they on the bus with other children?
Yes.
What is your understanding of the bus arrangement? Are there assigned seats?
Yes, so Eddie and Elsie sit together on the bus. There are assigned seats. And then Lena sits with a friend that's her own age.
Okay. And are there, so school buses, I guess, are different than when I was a kid, right? Are they required to sit in their chair the whole time?
Yes.
Okay. And are they picked up from their school and then it's just the bus route, or are there multiple schools that get on the bus?
It's the junior high and the elementary. I think it's actually all 3 schools. I think it's because Sealy is so small.
Okay, so restate the question, please.
I'll withdraw that question since she's not for sure. Are you, do you have an opinion on the importance of the children having normal children experiences?
Yes, I believe my children should play with other kids. I believe they should be involved in extracurricular activities. My children are enrolled in a ton of them. Eddie does tumbling and gymnastics. He has guitar lessons. Lena does hip hop and tumbling and has piano lessons. Elsie does hip hop and tumbling and also has piano lessons. Anya is involved in volleyball, basketball, track, and theater. All of these activities take place on my days. Ted doesn't do any of these extra trips to drop kids off for music lessons or gymnastics, dancing, or any of that. So, and I'm happy to do that. I want my children to excel.
And do you take pains to make sure that what the children do from an extracurricular standpoint doesn't infringe on the time for Mr. Hawks?
Yes, he doesn't have any extracurriculars scheduled on his days.
And would the extracurriculars necessarily fall during his weeks because they are every week events for the children? So that is to say, do they go to tumbling every week? Do they go to hip hop every week?
Yes, they do.
So if they go every week, would then they go during the weeks that they're with Mr. Hawks or miss half the time?
Yes.
So if then again, did you take pains to make sure they were only scheduled on certain days to avoid any claim that things were scheduled to take away his time?
Yes, ma'am.
So would a week on, week off possession schedule result in the children either not having the ability to consistently attend these extracurricular activities, or impose on Mr. Hawks's time extracurricular activities that he did not sign them up for, such that he could then claim that you signed them up for things during his time?
Yes, ma'am.
And are these extracurricular activities things that the children enjoy?
Yes.
And do you inform Mr. Hawks of performances or pageants or, what do they call those? Recitals or events with those extracurricular activities?
Yes, he knows about all of the end of year gymnastics things. He goes to all of Anya's, some of Anya's games, as many as he can, just like I go to as many as I can. We go to Anya's plays. He's not kept out of any of those things.
Do you believe that you have exercised diligence in keeping him in the loop in terms of the children's events and extracurricular activities?
Yes, he knows what they're involved in. He knows when they go to gymnastics and tumbling. He knows when Anya's games are. He doesn't know, he probably doesn't know about music lessons because we haven't had any recitals or performances about that. But Eddie will play his guitar and send a video to Ted so he can hear him, and the little girls will play their piano and send that to Ted so he knows that they're involved in these things. I don't know if he knows exactly the day, but it's always Tuesday evenings.
And let me ask you, when the children communicate with Mr. Hawks, do they communicate with him through your phone?
Yes, they do.
So when they send him messages or videos or, texts or call him, do they use your device to do that?
Yes.
And so has there been an occasion when you have discovered that Mr. Hawks provided to the children a secret phone?
Objection to secret phone. There's no evidence that there's any secret phone.
Yeah.
The objection's overruled, so you can go ahead and answer.
Okay, thank you. So according to our custody.
Just answer me the question.
Okay, yes.
And when was that?
I discovered it in October of 2019.
And now the court's taken judicial notice of the order from 2018. And in that order, you and Mr. Hawks agreed that you would be the person to decide when the children were sufficiently mature to be responsible enough, mature enough to carry a cellular device. Is that correct?
Yes.
That was a specific provision in the order. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
However, isn't it true that Mr. Hawks provided to Anya a device to communicate with him and did not tell you he had done so?
Yes.
Now, in that vein, was that the first such time Mr. Hawks had tried to thwart or get around the terms to which he had previously agreed with regard to boundaries with the children?
No, that was not the first time.
Okay. What other types of things were there that, or are there, that you recall Mr. Hawks doing as overtures in contravention of what he had agreed to?
So in the previous modification, we had agreed to split the 5th weekends so that I could take the kids to church on Sunday on the 5th weekends. And he agreed to this. And ever since that modification, he's only actually been in town on the 5th weekend one time. And that was during the duration of the suit when he wanted to be on his best behavior. But all of the other 5th weekends, he has purposely gone out of town so that I
That's
can't.
speculation as to him purposely going out of town.
Objection sustained.
So that I am unable to pick the kids up
Objection.
on the 5th weekends.
Objection.
So has his unavailability on the 5th weekends resulted in a thwarting of your ability to take the children to church as agreed?
Yes, ma'am.
And has that been consistently the behavior of Mr. Hawks since the 2018 agreed order?
Yes, ma'am.
So this proposition that Mr. Hawks proposes today, that you guys split or alternate the 5th week of any month or the week preceding the 5th weekend of any month, if the court were to order week on, week off, do you believe that Mr. Hawks will follow that order?
No, I do not.
Do you have concerns about any order the court imposes or any restriction that Mr. Hawks does not think should apply to him?
I believe that he often does not abide by the order, whatever order is in place.
In your dealings with Mr. Hawks, have you found any particular, since there are these issues about kind of consistency and abiding by the orders, have you found any techniques that, or have you found any behaviors that you believe are helpful when interacting with Mr. Hawks?
Yes, ma'am. So ever since our relationship fell apart, I have learned through several years of therapy and counseling about having healthy boundaries. And one of the boundaries that I believe is healthy is abiding by the agreement that is the law. And so I have never broken my own end of this agreement. On several occasions, Ted has. And another boundary I have set to facilitate my own healing is that I try to limit any kind of extraneous communication or conversation to just the bare minimum logistical things about kids, so that I can keep my life as private and separate as possible.
Based on the allegations that have cropped up in this litigation, do you find that that the course of conduct, that is to say, limiting extraneous interactions and conversations, do you find that that really is important in future communications with Mr. Hawks?
I think we only need to communicate logistical necessities. I don't think we need to be digging into each other's personal lives. I don't think that's appropriate. I have never dug into his personal life. And when he married Melody, I encouraged my children to welcome her as a part of their family, as well as all of their children. I feel like he did the opposite when I married Joe. I feel like he wanted to be very involved in all of the details of what was going on.
As to what Mr. Hawks wanted to do with him.
She said,
Objection overruled.
so do you find that what Mr. Hawks seems to, I guess, present as an unwillingness to confer, an unwillingness to get along, is really more your efforts to create boundaries between the two of you in this post-divorce relationship?
Yes, I that is how I am able to best heal from our past relationship.
Now, have you gone to great lengths to kind of keep those feelings from the kids? That is to say, reserve your, and actually, because are you uncomfortable when you deal with Mr. Hawks in person?
Yes.
And do you try then to limit the interpersonal, connection with him when the children are around, so they don't perceive any disconnect there?
Yes, because on a few occasions, Ted has confronted me and gotten into great arguments and fights in front of our children. And I feel like that's not healthy for me or the kids.
And were these exchanges?
Yes.
Okay. So these attempts to talk to you, to work things out in front of the children, escalate based on Mr. Hawks's, I guess, interactions with you, and you're uncomfortable. Do the children feel that? I mean, is the tension palpable?
Yes.
Okay. And so do you want to avoid that tension for them?
Yes, absolutely.
Are you familiar with, or you and he are not ordered to use any kind of parenting software?
No.
Have you ever considered using some parenting software to exchange information so that you and he can have kind of frank conversations between the two of you without being in person and without the children necessarily being in the loop?
I think we could consider that.
I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Judge.
I tell you what, before we start in, Ms. Lozano, do you need to take any?
That's okay, I'm good.
All right, so go ahead, Mr. Anderson.
Elizabeth, you were talking about something about church and possession. Do you
Yes,
recall that testimony?
Yes, sir.
Can you repeat what you had testified to about possession that you were supposed to have that he didn't give you because it was a clause in the modification?
So we had agreed that we would split the fifth weekends. He would have Friday, Saturday. I would have Sunday. so that I could take my children to church and we could do family dinner, which is one of our traditions and has been ever since they've been little.
Okay, but that's nowhere in the 2018 order, correct?
Is it not in the 2018?
Ma'am, I'm asking the questions, ma'am.
Judge, I've asked the court to take judicial notice of the court's file. The order says what the order says. The order says on page 7, there are church days. So if the court can, the order says church days. So I would refer Mr. Anderson to the court order from 2018.
Okay, I've taken judicial notice of that. Mr. Anderson, do you have that order in front of you?
Yes, I have the order.
What page is that on?
On page 7 at the very top, the second full paragraph.
So this doesn't apply to summer or holiday possession of the children, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And did you tell the court on what dates he had actually missed giving you the kids, so you say? Do you remember what those days were exactly?
Well, I submitted in my request for production. You're welcome to see those dates. I can tell you that since he filed
Actually not
this last
responsive.
suit,
Okay. Oh, objection overruled. I'm just trying to respond.
You know the date.
She doesn't have the dates right here in front of her, but she produced those documents. Do you want me to sort through the file to try to find that? She's just testified she has the dates that she sent in discovery.
Judge, I'll just move on for time's sake.
Okay.
Isn't it true that Mr. Hawks sent Anya home with an iPad, not a cell phone?
it was an iPod.
Oh, an iPod. I'm sorry, an iPod. Okay. So it wasn't a cell phone, correct?
Not a cell phone.
Okay. All right. And in y'all's 2018 provision, it says that you have exclusive right to determine when the children will obtain a cell phone, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But that wasn't the case. This was an iPod, something for music, correct?
My daughter was texting and communicating.
Objection, non-responsive.
Objection sustained.
Okay.
And your claim to this court is that you're creating boundaries, which is why you don't co-parent with Mr. Hawks, correct?
No.
So did you talk to him about the doctor's appointment where he had to go get Anya?
I had
No,
Anya.
ma'am.
What?
Did you talk to him about the appointment ahead of time?
No, because I was planning on taking
Objection,
her.
non-responsive after no.
Okay. All right. Objection sustained.
All right. And you testified that he wouldn't know about the lessons on Tuesday for guitar and piano and stuff. Is that because you haven't told him about the lessons?
He knows about the lessons.
You said it was your testimony that he wouldn't know about the lessons.
Because they don't take place on his day.
Okay. So have you told him when they take place before today?
No.
Okay. Do you know if Ted practices guitar with Edward?
I don't know.
Okay. Do you know if he practices piano with the girls?
I don't know that either.
Okay. And isn't it possible that Mr. Hawks could get them to these appointments and these extracurriculars just as easily as you can?
I don't know.
In fact, isn't it true that Ted was Anya's basketball coach?
Never Anya's basketball coach.
I mean, Edward's basketball coach. I apologize.
Yes.
So he actually coached the extracurriculars, correct?
1 year.
Okay. Now, isn't it true that you got the marital residence in the divorce?
Yes.
And isn't it also true that it was paid off?
Yes.
Objection, relevance.
Objection's overruled.
I'm waiting.
Sorry, ask. Yes.
Okay. So when y'all got divorced and you were getting $1,000 in spousal maintenance and $2,500 in child support, you also got a paid off home, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then you moved in with your parents, correct?
To help me while I went.
Objection, non-responsive, yes or no?
Okay. Yes.
And isn't it true you still live with your parents?
Yes.
Okay. And isn't it true you still own the home, the marital home?
Yes.
So you were married to Joe living in your parents' home, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And what do you mean by a security boundary?
I don't understand the question.
It was your term. I'm asking you to clarify what you mean by it. You said that you have a security boundary set with Joe, correct?
So that he has no access to the kids in our home.
Okay. And why is that?
Because I want our home to be as safe and as stable as possible. And according to Anya, she didn't feel like it was as safe and as stable as it could have been.
Did you talk to Ted about this security boundary?
No.
Okay. So Ted had no way of knowing that you wanted to establish a security boundary, as you call it, with Joe, right?
No.
Okay. All right. Ma'am, how much do you make working for the hospital?
Well, I usually make about $1,500 a paycheck. So if I get 2 paychecks in a month, that's $3,000.
How much do you make in
also
a year,
pay
ma'am?
for health insurance, dental insurance, vision insurance, everything.
Have you done your taxes, ma'am?
Yes.
How much did you make this year, this past year?
I would have to get my computer and pull that up for you, but I think it was around $58,000.
So you could submit that to us.
Sure.
So Ted, in fact, did talk to you about modifying this order frequently because y'all modified it, correct?
We mediated it the last time.
No, I mean, during COVID, y'all modified y'all's arrangement and he had the kids more often, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and y'all had conversation about that. So you knew he wanted to modify and have more time with the kids, right?
And I was giving it to him.
And the kids are doing well, correct?
Yes, the kids are well.
Okay. And you said that you try to work when you don't have the kids, but in November, you worked when you had the kids on the weekend, correct?
No,
You didn't?
no, I never work when I have the kids on the weekend. So whatever you're looking at is not
You
right.
worked the weekend of the 14th, you worked the weekend of the 21st, and you worked the weekend of the 28th.
Why don't you put that up on the screen for me so I can tell you what it says?
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it probably was Thanksgiving when Ted had the kids.
You may share that?
Yeah, you can share it, please.
Thanksgiving.
Okay, yes, Thanksgiving. So I try to work as much as possible when I don't have the kids so that I can make a little bit of overtime because I don't make very much money. So, yeah.
So the Thanksgiving holiday was the 26th.
Right. But the 21st is
Yeah.
when the Thanksgiving break started. So they were with Ted.
Okay.
And then the weekend before that was his weekend. So they were with Ted.
Okay. And what is the one before that? That 6:45. What does that mean?
That's time I took off to be with my children. That's my unavailability when I say I absolutely cannot work this weekend. And I even took PTO the Friday before that to have time with my children.
Okay. Okay. Wednesday, before that, you worked?
Wednesday was Ted's day with the kids after school. So I work every Wednesday, as you can see.
What about Monday?
So Monday is one of the days that I have the kids that I usually work because they are at gymnastics and I don't get much time with them, and their gymnastics is right next to my job. So I can pick them up easily when my shift is over and I can bring them home.
Okay. And how do they get to gymnastics?
Well, grandma picks them up from school and she takes them on Mondays.
Okay. And so let's talk about that. Grandma does a lot of the picking up and dropping off, does she not?
She does. She is wonderful.
Okay. And when you were in school, yeah, that's fine. You can unshare and we can go back to the regular screen. Thank you for the clarification, by the way.
You're welcome.
When you were going to school, what were your days of, how often did you go to school?
Well, I was taking 20 credits a semester for 3 semesters.
And that's a lot, correct?
So I went every day to school, Monday through Friday.
Okay. From what time to what time?
I don't know, 8 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon.
Okay. And during that time, who was taking care of the kids?
My parents were taking care of the children while I was at school.
So your parents have taken care of these kids a lot when Mr. Hawks could have taken care of them, correct?
Well, Mr. Hawks was living in Spring at the time and had a new family and had a lot going on in his life. So no, I don't believe he could have taken care of them as well as my parents.
Objection sustained.
And did you even talk to him about it?
I didn't hear the question.
Ma'am, did you talk to him about the strenuous school activity you were fixing to have and whether or not he could help?
Yes, he knew I was going to school.
Did you talk to him about helping you?
Yes, I even let the kids stay over extra Tuesdays and Thursday nights. While I was going to school, they spent those nights at his house, and that was outside of our original agreement.
Okay. And did y'all continue to do that after you were done with school?
No.
So you took that away after you got done with school, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So You give him extra time, y'all are starting to work together, and then as soon as it doesn't suit you anymore, you take it back, right?
No,
That's exactly what you just testified happened.
no, it's not.
Now, isn't it true that he can take care of these kids a week on, week off, just like you can?
I don't know.
So tell the court what is the what would be the problem with him having them for a week on or week off? What is your reason that he should not have the kids for a week on, week off like Anya when he's been taking care of Anya just fine?
Objection, Judge. The standard is not for us to prove why it shouldn't change. The standard is for him to prove why it should.
Okay, well, objection overruled. I want to go ahead and hear the answer.
I believe my children are thriving and healthy and have done well. I don't believe they could do any better anywhere else than where, according to the custody schedule that they have right now. I believe this is the best possible situation for them. And since there is no evidence to the contrary, I'm going to maintain that we should not make any further changes to the custody.
What harm would come to them by doing week on, week off with their father?
And again, Judge, I'm going to renew my objection. Harm is not the standard for any modification. And here, again, he's asking for us to show why it shouldn't be changed when it's his burden to prove why it should.
Judge, I
How
think
about, well, just how would it be how would it not be in their best interest to do that? Why don't we try it that way?
I believe I can provide a more consistent, stable, safe, enriching environment. And I believe that the evidence supports my claim. And I believe that they should not be, the custody arrangements should not be altered.
Ma'am, isn't it true that you did not put Mr. Hawks on the registration at the school for the junior high?
Ted made me aware of that, and I don't remember not doing that.
So when you sign him up, you just don't put him down as the father. Do you think that's in the best interest of your kids?
Again, I don't remember not doing that.
Did you rush over there and change it?
Ted had told me he had already changed it.
Wait, he couldn't change it. Did you change it?
No, I did not change it.
Okay, so after he told you, you still didn't try and change it.
He didn't ask me to change it.
Did your mom sign the kids up for school?
No, I signed them up for school. And we did it last minute because of COVID. We weren't sure. Are we going to go back? Are we not going to go back? So everybody was struggling with the same issues in August.
Whether or not he goes back doesn't change the fact that Ted's still the father and should be on the paperwork, correct?
No, I agree. And I'm happy to march over there today and do that.
In fact, your mom takes the kids to a lot of the dentist appointments. Is that correct?
So I have a very...
Yes or no, ma'am?
Sometimes.
So you have your mom doing a lot of the stuff. Ted does a lot and has been doing well with the kids for the last few months on this new trial basis.
It's been 1 month.
Anya's been there for longer than a month, correct? And you would agree that she's been doing well, correct?
I believe that she is doing well. Yes.
And pass the witness, Judge.
All right, Ms. Borman.
No questions.
All right, and Ms. Borman, anything else?
No, sir, we'll rest.
Let me see if I had any questions. All right, Mr. Anderson, anything else?
Just closing, Judge.
Go ahead.
Judge, like we've heard testimony, we think that both of these people are good parents. These children aren't going to be in any physical danger on either side of the fence. There is roughly 9 weeks of school left, Judge. Mr. Hawks has done a fabulous job of maintaining Anya's school and keeping her on a week-on, week-off basis schedule and keeping her involved in all her activities. And he's done so for the last month on an expanded with the other 3 kids. Judge, all he's asking for is the opportunity over the next 9 to 10 weeks to prove to this court on a temporary basis.
We froze on this side. I didn't hear. He said, I heard Mr. Hawks has done a fabulous job, and then we froze on this side. I'm sorry.
I'll start over. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure it out. It says my connection's unstable, but I'm connected through an Ethernet again, so I'm not quite sure what is happening right now. Okay, I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry, Mr. Anderson.
So
I think I fixed it.
he's also done a good job at making sure on an expanded for the other 3 kids during this trial basis that those kids have flourished. There's no argument that these kids are good kids and they're good in school. All he's asking for is for the remainder of the school year for them to stay in the school and let him have a week-on, week-off basis like Anya is getting to enjoy. She wanted it for her. It's doing well. These other kids want to be with their father week-on, week-off, just like Anya. And if the court will give Mr. Hawks the opportunity to show the court that he can do this, I think they'll be pleasantly surprised that he will succeed in all areas. It's not going to harm these kids. It is in their best interest that they be with their father half the time. He lives close to the mom, and he can make it happen. He's not objecting to paying the difference in child support if that's what the court deems is in the best interest. He's not objecting to that at all. He wants what's right, and he wants what's fair. And fair in this situation is for him to be a bigger part in these kids' lives and to be a parent 50% of the time. She can work as many days as she wants whenever to get more income. She stated herself that she's on limited income. And if he had a week-on, week-off schedule with her, then she could work more overtime on those weeks in order to provide more income for herself.
Objection, that's beyond the scope of the evidence.
And that's not actually.
Okay, objection sustained.
So, Judge, we're asking for an opportunity here. We're not asking for much more than what was already agreed to by the expanded. We're asking for a few more days during the week for the other kids to make it a week-on, week-off, second and fourth, and either alternate fifths or however the court deems necessary. That's all we're asking for, Judge, is opportunity.
All right, Ms. Borman.
Judge, we're here again today. This is the exact same request he made in 2017. And every time he requests, there's a little more, a little more, a little more, just like the boundary that the order says no cell phone, so he gets an iPod that allows for texting. I mean, any type of way that you can, squirm around a rule, that's what Mr. Hawks is going to do. We've had 2 weekends where we've actually done the expanded standard possession order. And both those weekends, Eddie has asked to come home early. We don't even know if it's going to work for these children yet. It is absolutely premature to make any kind of change to go to a week-on, week-off, particularly while school is in session. I mean, there are COVID time is weird enough for children that if we throw more changes on them after two extended weekends to now go to week on, week off for the last 9 weeks of school, I can't think of a worse scenario for these children if stability is the goal. And so if the court is going to leave the expanded standard possession order in place for the younger ones, let's try on the pants. I always tell my clients, before we make a final order about anything, let's try on the pants and make sure they fit, just like you would do at a store. So let's try on the pants for this expanded standard possession order for the 3 younger ones, because so far it's not working for the boy. So if it's going to work for the 3 of them, we hope over time it will actually shake out, maybe being these next 9 weeks. When it comes to the allegations that Mr. Hawks makes to this court that Ms. Hawks has not cooperated with him, she didn't tell him that she's created a boundary with her new husband, as though somehow she should, when Mr. Hawks is the one whose complaint was from the very beginning that Anya didn't like Joe and Joe was mean, and so Joe needed to be out of the house. And so it just makes absolutely no sense why now the creation of a boundary with Joe, the man about whom Mr. Hawks initially complained, is now out of the house, and Mrs. Hawks didn't tell him about it. I mean, it's frustrating to see situations like this where people were getting along, and then the getting along is thrown out the window when money comes into play. But now here we have our exhibit R5 is uncontroverted. He paid over $25,000 within 2 months because he was that far behind. And his complaint is that Ms. Hawks works during the evenings or the days when the children are at school and requires her mother to take them to appointments. So Mr. Hawks's position is that instead of allowing her mother to take the children to their doctor's appointments when she's at work, she should instead call Mr. Hawks and say, hey, since you work from home and you're not paying child support anyways, you might as well take the kids for me to these doctor's appointments. So maybe now you won't work anymore to be able to pay the child support that you actually owe to me. It's preposterous. And so it is offensive, in fact. And so Mr. Hawks's pleas for Mrs. Hawks to get along with him and cooperate with him and co-parent with him when he himself is not abiding by the order to which he agreed should not be rewarded by giving him a week on, week off possession schedule at this juncture. So we would respectfully request that you leave week on, week off for Anya, but leave the expanded standard for the 3 other children to make sure it works for any reasonable period of time. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Anders?
No, Judge.
Okay.
We'll make it through.
Okay. All right. So I'll read a temporary order in the record. Mr. Anderson, since you're the petitioner, I'll have you prepare this. And I think it's like April 1st, a good entry date.
Yes, Judge, that'll be fine. At 9 a.m., Judge?
Why we do it 1:30? We have I have a criminal docket in the morning.
Can we do that by Zoom?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
But it'll be in the, let's do it.
Sorry, Judge.
Go ahead.
My internet was unstable. I didn't hear what you said. The last thing I heard was April 1st. Did that change? I apologize.
No, it's April 1st at 1:30 for entry.
Okay.
And we'll get a Zoom link for that afternoon if we need to. All right, so I'm going to have some temporary modifications to the order, but the modifications are going to go into effect, when we have a written order so that there's no question what applies. So until we get the order in place, the current expanded will stay in effect, but when we get the written order, then things will change. And one of the things on the modification is, with school and the extracurriculars, Yeah, I really want to see how that goes. So I'm looking at, unless there's an agreement by the parties, I think we really need to get a final probably in August or September or something like that. So we don't have a date right now, but I think this is one of these temporary orders that's not going to be indefinite. I can tell you the extracurricular activities and school is something that will play a major impact on any final order. We'll leave the agreement for the summer in place. So as I understand it, Ms. Hawks will have 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of June, the first 2 weeks of July, and Mr. Hawks the second 2 weeks in June and the second 2 weeks of July. So if that's what I understand the agreement to be, that'll be part of the order. But as far as the temporary modification is concerned, when the order is signed, I'll give Mr. Hawks week on, week off on the second and fourth weeks. Children, of course, will stay in their current school, should maintain the current extracurricular. So it's not going to work to have different guitar lessons or different piano or different dance lessons at a different place. So as much as possible, the children need to maintain those current extracurricular activities.
Judge, before on those extracurriculars, if Miss Borman would get with her client and just get me the information for those activities so that I can get that to my client to where they do not miss and are not having where there's no interruption. If they could do that, that would be great.
Right, and one of the modifications also is the parties will both enroll and pay their own fee for My Family Wizard.
We'll upload all the information into Our Family Wizard.
Okay.
With respect to that week on, week off, Judge, can we do that Wednesday to Wednesday? That way Ms. Hawks can work on the 2 weeks rather than going from Monday to Monday, and where she would have to be off for a full week. That's not something she can do in her schedule.
Okay. Again, so this is a temporary basis. We'll try that for the Wednesday to the Wednesday. And again, from now until either July or August, there's only going to be 2 months that have 5 weekends, just May and July. So again, for now, Mr. Hawks will have it just on the 2nd and 4th. Ms. Hawks will just have the kids on that 5th week as that applies. And then the child support will be the difference. The current medical and dental insurance will maintain the same. There wasn't a whole lot of evidence. If the parties want to exchange things amongst themselves, my ballpark figure is that the gross monthly income to base child support is going to be about $3,000 a month. So if we're looking at the difference, it would be Mr. Hawks would start off with 3,000 gross, and then you figure the net, and then you figure what it would be for 4 kids.
And in that respect, Judge, I think that where do you calculate in the medical insurance premium that Ms. Hawks pays? I mean, is that taken into consideration? I know we didn't introduce evidence about that, but she's the one who carries the medical support and the dental, I think.
Okay, so, I didn't include that, so we'll just have a reimbursement. Mr. Hawks will reimburse that.
All right, very good.
For the kids.
So I think currently they split the medical, is that correct?
Well, and when I said reimburse, I mean, he'll reimburse half. So I guess
are you talking 50-50 on the uninsured, or are you talking about the premiums? She pays the full premium, and that's why the child support was higher. So the medical support was incorporated child support number because it wasn't a separate reimbursement according to the order, is what I'm saying.
Unfortunately, Ms. Borman, you froze up during a lot of that. So we'll just have Mr. Hawks you reimburse her, 50/50 for uninsured.
Yeah.
And reimburse her for half of the medical dental coverage. All right, anything else, Mr. Anderson?
No, not as of right now, Judge.
And Ms. Borman, anything else?
So since April 1st is the entry date, we're talking about the effective date of the entry of the order. We're going from, I want to kind of look at the calendar and make sure we're all on the same page. The second weekend of April is the 9th. So visitation would begin on this new week on, week off thing. Assuming that we have the order on April 1st, it would start April 7th to April 14th, and then April 22nd to April 28th. Is that correct? Am I understanding the court's order?
Correct. If we get the order by the 1st, then his possession would start April 7th. Correct.
So his possession would start at the time school is dismissed on April 7th and end at the time school resumes on April 14th. And then her possession would begin at the time school is dismissed on the 14th and end the next Wednesday. Is that right?
And correct. And that's part of the reason I want this to start when we have a written order so that there's no question about that. So.
We'll try to draft some days and stuff. Ms. Borman, do you know how much medical roughly is in dental?
I believe it was part of
It was submitted. Oh, I'm sorry.
it was one of my it was in the production. I don't have it right here in front of me. It wasn't one of my exhibits. I can get that to you.
Yeah,
to
I was just,
confirm. And is it the court's order that it's only to be reimbursed 50% of that premium? We're calculating child support on 4 kids and 50% of the premium. Is that right?
Right.
Okay, just making sure.
And if the two of you want to compare numbers and adjust that number, like I said, there wasn't a whole lot of evidence, so I was basing that 3,000 gross on a real rough estimate.
and Judge, just so the court's aware, I just put it in the AG calculator, roughly on a 3,000 gross estimate with 250 in medical as a deal, and it roughly came out to about 800 a month. So that's a rough guess. I'll get with Ms. Borman and try and get it figured out.
All right, anything else?
That's it, Judge.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your time. I'll see you at 1 o'clock, Judge.
Yes,
Okay.
May we be excused?
you may. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so now, Karina, do I exit out? I won't do it yet, but is there the 1 o'clock is a separate Zoom?
So you can exit out.